One African elephant will feed 2,000 people. Think about that for a moment. One elephant will feed 2,000 people. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hunting the African elephant. Elephant hunting is an extremely divisive topic. People are either for it or they're against it. Even people who know nothing about it have strong opinions one way or the other. Opponents to elephant hunting say that it is immoral and wrong, that no one should ever kill such a magnificent creature, and that the hunting of elephants decreases population numbers. Proponents of elephant hunting say that it is the only practical way to preserve the species, fight poaching, and provide the necessary funding for conservation efforts. A study of the evidence shows that hunting these majestic beasts is not only an ethical venture, but essential to the conservation and sustainability of the species. It not only helps elephants, but also helps the people who live with them and helps the countries which they inhabit. Without hunting, elephants would soon go extinct. Sportsmen and sport hunting are the most important factors in preserving large wild animals from extermination. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States and an avid hunter himself, once said, and I quote, "In a civilized and cultivated country, wild animals only continue to exist at all when preserved by sportsmen. The excellent people who protest against all hunting and consider sportsmen as enemies of wildlife are ignorant of the fact that in reality, the genuine sportsman is by all odds the most important factor in keeping the larger and more valuable wild creatures from total extermination." Close quote. Roosevelt understood the importance of wildlife conservation. Roosevelt understood that if we love animals, we will preserve them from extermination. He knew that using sportsmen to hunt and regulate a species was the most effective conservation model ever implemented. This model is known as the North American Wildlife Conservation Model. The principles behind this model come from the early efforts of conservationists like Theodore Roosevelt, John Muir, and Gifford Pinchot, and others from the late 1800s. This model views wildlife as a public resource. It eliminates the market for the sale of wildlife. It manages wildlife through law. It states that hunting should be democratic, that wildlife should only be killed for legitimate reasons, and it uses science to guide wildlife management decisions. This model saved the North American elk and several species of wild turkey from total extermination. Similar models have been used in a number of African countries to greatly increase elephant populations. Countries such as Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Zambia have seen tremendous success in preserving their elephant populations through controlled hunting. Hunting elephants has had a tremendously positive effect on local economies and tribes. Each hunter is required to purchase an elephant license. Licenses are sold for only about 1/2 of 1% of the total elephant population in any given country. One elephant hunting license can bring in between $40,000 and well over $100,000 to the local economy and government. These license fees pay the local conservation personnel as well as the local people employed in the hunting camps. In African countries like Namibia, the local people are willing to put up with all of the crop, fruit, and tree destruction that the elephants cause, as well as the danger they represent to people, because the animals bring in so much money every time one is killed. Elephant hunting provides many jobs in countries where work is extremely difficult to find. The hunting industry employs local trackers, skinners, butchers, guides, cooks, hunting camp personnel, drivers, etc. Many local people in African countries rely entirely on the hunting industry for their livelihood. Also, elephant meat feeds many starving, impoverished people. When an elephant is killed, the professional hunter contacts several dozen villages to come and harvest and use the meat. In many areas of Africa, elephant meat is the only good source of protein that people have access to. Supporting and participating in elephant hunting in Africa actually feeds tens of thousands of starving African children and adults. But there is another huge benefit for allowing elephant hunting. It is the single biggest deterrent to illegal elephant poaching. Poaching destroys elephant populations. When an African professional hunter receives a conservancy, which is a government hunting agreement, from an African country, he is given control over a certain geographical area and a certain number of elephants. He is given a very limited annual quota of elephants that can be harvested from his conservancy. Each elephant in his area then becomes very, very valuable to him, as well as to the local farmers and landowners and tribes in his conservancy. Each elephant has a potential worth of between $40,000 and well over $100,000 US. All parties involved are then financially motivated to protect and preserve each elephant. Each professional hunter is motivated to stop all poaching operations in his area. These professional hunters invest time and money in anti-poaching patrols and other techniques to stop poachers and poaching. Therefore, by killing a few elephants each year, many hundreds of elephants can be saved from poachers. The introduction or reintroduction of elephant hunting in African countries is the answer to preserving elephants for future generations. When one can see elephants for what they really are, and when one can see elephant hunting for what it truly is, a way to save elephants, one can begin to see that it is a moral, honest, and necessary act of compassion. One can then see that those who hunt elephants do so out of love for the species and a desire to preserve them. The elephant hunter is a true sportsman and a gentleman, giving his time and money to preserve something magnificent and wonderful. He even puts his own life at risk to do it, i.e., to hunt a very large and dangerous animal. There are not many other things so magnanimous as hunting an African elephant. It is an act of pure compassion for an animal that needs our help to survive. My invitation to each of us today is to get involved in the conversation. This is not only a local conversation in Africa, but this is an international, global conversation. The topic of hunting these majestic beasts and the best way to preserve them. I would invite each of us to get involved with our families, with our friends, on social media, on the internet. Get in the conversation, do more research, and share your thoughts. And get behind this great movement to save these magnificent animals. Another thing that each of us can do is to write a letter or an email, an electronic letter, to our representatives, whomever they may be. Whether we live here in the United States and we're writing to our federal Congress, or living in another country, writing to whatever government exists there. Whether you're in Africa or Europe or Asia, we can each get involved in this conversation and let people know that we care enough about these animals to implement an ethical wildlife conservation effort in order to preserve them. And this is so important. And each one of us and each of our voices makes a difference. So I would invite each of us to show support for elephant hunting. And a good place to start in gaining more knowledge would be to look up a great New York Times article called "Hunt Elephants to Save Them" by Rachel Newer. And also another article that was in the National Geographic entitled, "Is Trophy Hunting Helping Save African Elephants?" And that was by Adam Cruz. I would invite you to look up these articles, to research more, to research some videos and different things that you find, and to get involved in this conversation so that we might be able to preserve these magnificent animals. And with that, I wish us all the best of luck.